has considered the arguments made by the attorneys. The court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family as well as the Watts family that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood, and I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that the statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
Please rise.
It began as a whisper, a faint echo through online true crime forums, whispered between journalists and whispered again in the dark corners of social media. The Chris Watts case might be reopened. By 2026, nearly a decade after one of the most haunting family murders in American history, the case many believed was closed and buried beneath concrete justice was once again stirring. But this time, it wasn't driven by police. It was driven by the people. Thousands of signatures began appearing on online petitions, demanding a reinvestigation. They claimed inconsistencies in the original investigation, missing data, unreleased surveillance footage, and unanswered questions surrounding Chris's mistress, Nicole Kessinger. One petition alone surpassed 250,000 signatures in a matter of weeks. Some argued that Chris's chilling confession was incomplete, that he was protecting someone, or that the details of that night didn't align with forensic timelines. Others believed the system wanted the case to disappear, that reopening it would expose failures and hidden connections no one dared to face. And while law enforcement publicly denied any official plans to revisit the case, whispers from inside Weld County hinted that the files were being quietly reviewed. Someone somewhere was asking new questions. But beneath the noise, one chilling truth remained. Reopening this case meant reopening wounds that never truly healed. And if the evidence people claim is real, then what we thought we knew about the Watts murders could all be about to change. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more dark, thought-provoking true crime stories every week. By early 2026, the internet was once again on fire with the name Chris Watts. A wave of online activism surged, led not by journalists or lawyers, but by ordinary citizens, people who couldn't accept that the story was truly over. The petition began quietly, a single post on Reddit claiming to possess sealed evidence never released to the public. Within days, it spread to TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Hashtags like #ReopenWattsCase and #JusticeForShanann began trending globally. The documents circulating online were blurry, unverified screenshots, but their contents were enough to cause a storm. They hinted at deleted messages between Chris and a mysterious third party the night of the murders. Some claimed there were unreleased body cam clips from officers arriving at the Watts home, showing Chris's demeanor before he was fully aware of being a suspect. Then came something more alarming. A former Weld County investigator anonymously told an independent journalist that certain data recovered from Shanann's phone was never entered into evidence. The statement sent shockwaves through the true crime world. YouTubers, legal analysts, and amateur sleuths dissected every line, every frame, every soundbite, all searching for proof that Chris Watts didn't act alone. Some believed Nicole Kessinger's disappearance into anonymity after the case wasn't about privacy, but protection. As speculation grew, so did the pressure on the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Officials issued cautious statements, neither confirming nor denying an internal review. But insiders leaked that old evidence boxes were being re-examined. Something had shifted. The case wasn't dead anymore, it was breathing again. And for the families still haunted by what happened in Frederick, Colorado, that breath felt like the start of a storm. When the rumors of a possible reopening reached Dodge Correctional Institution, where Chris Watts had spent years in isolation, something inside those cold, concrete walls began to stir. According to a prison source, Chris first heard about the petitions from a fellow inmate. At first, he brushed it off until he started receiving letters again. Dozens of them, some filled with anger, others with sympathy. But a few contained something else entirely, copies of the new evidence being circulated online. Prison staff later reported that Chris seemed more unsettled than usual. The man who once described his murders in flat, emotionless tones was suddenly pacing, withdrawn, and sleepless. He told one guard that people don't know everything, a vague statement that was later leaked and interpreted by the public as a cryptic confession. Then, through an intermediary, a journalist received a handwritten note allegedly from Chris. In it, he wrote, "If God gives me a chance to tell the truth again, I will. But it's not just my truth anymore." That single sentence ignited a frenzy. What did he mean by "not just my truth"? Was he suggesting someone else was involved? His mother, Cindy Watts, reportedly reached out to him after years of silence, fearing the rumors might trigger something dangerous. In one of their calls, leaked snippets revealed Cindy telling him, "If you know something that wasn't said, you need to let it out now." But Chris didn't respond. Meanwhile, public speculation exploded. Forums lit up with theories that the 2026 review could expose a cover-up, or even implicate someone new. For the first time in years, Chris Watts wasn't just a name from a nightmare. He was part of a living mystery again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more dark, thought-provoking true crime stories every week. As whispers of a case review spread, a quiet movement began inside the Weld County Courthouse. A small team, unofficial, off the record, began pulling old boxes from the archives. Dust-covered files, hard drives, sealed photographs, and forensic reports that hadn't been touched since 2018. The team's task wasn't public, but their curiosity was dangerous. One investigator reportedly told a colleague, "We just want to see if everything still lines up." Didn't. Among the re-examined material was a partial data log recovered from Shanann's phone. A record of outgoing messages that appeared to have been deleted in the hours leading up to her death. They weren't damning, but they raised questions. Why were they gone? And who deleted them? Then came the discovery that sent chills through the review team. A security timestamp from a neighbor's surveillance footage didn't match the one in the police file. It was off by several minutes, just enough to disrupt the official timeline. Was it human error or something more? The media didn't know any of this yet, but inside those quiet rooms, the atmosphere grew heavier. One investigator confided to a journalist friend, "It's like every answer we find opens two new doors." Meanwhile, online detectives pounced on every leak, connecting red string across virtual corkboards. They argued that Chris's confession had been rehearsed, too precise in parts, too vague in others. And through it all, Chris remained silent in prison. But silence, as the world was learning, can be just as loud as words. Something wasn't right. And if the evidence truly didn't match the story, the Chris Watts case was about to become more than a tragedy. It was about to become a reckoning. It started with one headline: "Exclusive, investigators reviewing new evidence in Chris Watts case." Within hours, it was everywhere. National outlets picked it up, podcasts dissected it, and YouTube true crime creators reignited the story with renewed fury. What began as rumor had now evolved into full-blown public pressure. The article quoted an anonymous source claiming a discrepancy in the original forensic timeline had led to a quiet internal review. Though no one officially confirmed it, that was all it took. Outside the courthouse, cameras returned for the first time in years. Reporters stood where Shanann and Watts once walked, while internet sleuths claimed they'd been vindicated all along. But behind the chaos, two families were being torn open again. Shanann's parents, Frank and Sandra Razusek, released a statement begging people to stop weaponizing our pain. Meanwhile, Cindy and Ronnie Watts, Chris's parents, told a local reporter that they'd always believed something about that night didn't make sense. Chris, locked in his cell, was reportedly inundated with mail again. Some letters urging him to finally tell the full truth. Others accusing him of manipulating the world one more time. Authorities attempted to calm the frenzy. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation issued a firm statement. There is no active reopening of the Watts case at this time. But the words "at this time" only fueled more theories. Online, people began posting side-by-side comparisons of police reports, audio logs, and body cam footage, claiming inconsistencies that no one could ignore. The case that once felt final was now fractured again, split between fact, speculation, and something darker in between. And if even one part of that leaked story turned out to be true, then everything the world believed about Chris Watts might have to be rewritten. When the story broke, Dodge Correctional Institution became a pressure cooker. Inside those cement gray walls, whispers moved faster than guards could contain them. Chris Watts had become a headline again, and for an inmate serving life for one of America's most infamous murders, that kind of attention was a double-edged sword. Some inmates saw it as leverage. Others saw it as a curse. But for Chris, it was something far more personal. A haunting reminder that the world had never stopped watching him. Sources from within the prison claimed that after the news aired, Chris requested extra chapel time. He stopped talking in the cafeteria, refused mail, and started praying for the truth to stay buried. Guards said he seemed paranoid, muttering under his breath about people trying to twist things. A prison chaplain later revealed that Chris confided in him, saying, "If they open it up again, they'll destroy everyone, not just me." That cryptic line leaked, and once it did, social media went wild. Who was everyone? Was he protecting someone outside? Someone who helped him? Meanwhile, journalists scrambled to trace the leak's origin. The new evidence everyone was talking about turned out to have come from a private digital storage request, an archive file accessed under an investigator's credentials. Whether it was stolen or shared intentionally remained unclear. But the damage was done. The Chris Watts case was alive again, and with it came chaos. Inmates taunted him. Guards watched him closely. Online sleuths pored over his every word. Chris Watts had wanted peace, even if it meant spending his life behind bars. But peace doesn't exist when your sins are immortalized. And now, the ghosts of that August night were clawing their way back into the light. But now, there's a date circled on calendars across the true crime community. August 13th, 2026, the 8th anniversary of the murders. The day when, according to rumors, the petition review and evidence reevaluation are expected to conclude. Officially, nothing has been confirmed. Yet whispers suggest that several forensic analysts and legal experts have submitted new reports, challenging the timeline, questioning data integrity, and even re-examining digital footprints from that night. Some claim that items once dismissed as irrelevant now hold chilling significance. Meanwhile, from inside Dodge Correctional Institution, Chris remains eerily silent. Those who've seen him say he's grown thinner, more withdrawn, spending hours in prayer, writing letters no one receives. There's talk that he fears what might come out, that the truth he once tried to bury is clawing its way to the surface. Outside, the world waits. The Rzusek family holds on to faith, believing that justice was already done, that reopening the case only prolongs their suffering. But others, they believe justice hasn't even begun. And as the clock ticks closer to that date, one thing is certain. The story of Chris Watts is far from over. Whether the case is truly reopened or not, it's clear that the past still breathes, and its heartbeat grows louder with every passing day. Because in the end, secrets never stay buried forever, and when they surface, they drag everything with them. For more chilling true crime stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime.